Yes, 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 yes. Let's get this show. Let's get this show started. What is going on, my brother? Let me get this beautiful, beautiful, exciting music off of here.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Hope all is well. Excited to be here. How is things on your end?
My brother, Sean Bain. Hey, listen, man. Everything is wonderful, man. Everything is good. I'm really excited about having you on Uncommon, men this evening. I'm real excited because first of all, as I'm going to put this ticker up here, this is our 23rd episode. My partner Dan Putnam, he'll be joining us in just a couple of moments. Keyshawn, he had a major flight delay, and he never flies on Mondays because of the podcast. But he figured because his son's birthday is tomorrow, he could make this business trip, and he was flying home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So, he didn't expect a 3 hour delay. And so he's probably just landing and racing to the office so he can join us. But he's excited, man. And I'm just excited, bro. I want everyone to know, man. I tell you, comments are coming in already, man. You're a popular guy, man. I mean, we haven't even been on for 2 minutes yet. I know that about you, and you're really doing some amazing things, and we got some time. We're gonna take our time tonight,
Sure.
and we love this podcast because, okay, Sean. Before we get into it, here's the deal. Our movement is uncommon, right? And we are focusing on men's empowerment. And, we love women. We support our women. We protect our women. We salute our women all over the world. But we just really feel that this is a time when men need to come together and support each other.
Yeah, correct.
Men's empowerment. When it comes to success, when it comes to having mentors, when it comes to having someone to lean on during the rough times. And the bottom line is what we focus on here at Uncommon is what is it to be successful in 5 major areas we're going to talk about tonight. And we feel like if we interview enough men around the world who are successful in these areas, we will create a tablet, a database of information and content that anybody could go back and look at from now until the end of times and say, man, here's a roadmap to success in the areas where it really, really counts. And so I'm excited about that. And Uncommon is becoming a movement. Keyshawn is becoming a brand. It's bigger than any one company. It's literally a movement that everybody is invited to. And so I want to kind of just start at the beginning. Because I've known you for many, 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 many years,
Correct.
I believe, possibly a decade or more.
About
And
just over.
and that's an honor, because when the Keyshawn I met was not this Keyshawn right here. It was not this global phenom, master businessman, master entrepreneur, leader, public speaker, but the seed was there.
Yeah.
I saw the greatness. And so what I want to say is this. Can you give people outside of the great, beautiful country of Trinidad and Tobago some insight on who Keyshawn Bain is? I mean, I'm talking about going back to maybe the childhood, your parents, was it siblings? What sparked entrepreneurship for you? What were some of the things that you remember growing up? The good, the bad, that kind of really put you on a journey. Just some insight into your background,
Sure.
Who is Keyshawn Bain? Yeah.
So good night all. Hope all is well. Before I start, let me just say that Mr. Brown and Mr. Clavon here has been one of the most influential persons in my business networking career. I have to say that the seeds that he's speaking about, I could honestly say that God would have utilized him as the planter to sow some major seeds in my life. So part of the success that my team and I have been able to have, the information, the informed action came from his mouth. So let me just start by as we say, giving honor where honor is due, and all glory to God. But as we know, God uses men, God uses women, and we are the tools, we are the instruments of the creator himself. So I must start by saying that a major part of my success in this space, in this industry, came from Mr. Clavon Browning. And my team is listening in. My team knows I say it all the time. They know that you would have been the person that really broke down the industry to me from a scientific standpoint. And when we say scientific, we mean ABCs, where a child could see it and then sees it. So let me just start by saying that.
Hey, man, it's been a great journey.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate it 1000%, 100% times 100. Yeah. So I'm Kishon Vane. I'm 33 years of age. I've been a full-time entrepreneur in the space of network marketing or networking for the last 11 plus years, decade plus. And the question you ask, what allowed me to have a curiosity for being an entrepreneur, being a businessman? And today earlier I had some thought about what I'm about to say to persons tonight. And the truth is, in Trinidad and Tobago, I'm from Diego Martin originally, and I'm from what we call the poor ends of Diego Martin. I'm not just coming from the poor ends of that area. I grew up with a single parent. And growing up with a single parent, just today, I remember having a conversation with my mom, asking her not too long ago, Mom, what was the most amount of money you ever earned on a week to week basis? And I was blown because when you listen to the personal development gurus out there, one of the guys I would have listened to was Miles Monroe, and he gave the definition of economy and how you can economize. And he simply said to economize means to take the maximum out of the minimum. And knowing that definition and then hearing the amount of money my mom worked for on a week to week basis, she was practically an economist.
No, all right.
Because I was shocked to hear that she would have only ever in her lifetime worked for more than 500 TT dollars a week up to this day. And in US currency, that's an average of 100 US dollars a week. So I came from a background whereby my mom, which was my influence in the household, never earned beyond 100 US dollars a week. And of course, having to live a lifestyle inside of the parameters of her financial situation. There were many instances when, we would have gone shopping, we would have gone to the malls. And I tell persons, I grew accustomed to being rejected while asking for things that a child would ask for, being at the grocery stores, being at the malls.
Yeah.
And the common rejection was, I can't afford it. The common rejection was, probably not today, probably next week or probably next month when I'm able to really, make that happen for you. Um, uh, Also, what is very distinctive, I must say, is growing up in the area in which I grew up in, my look was distinctive. Because when I look around to the left and I look around to the right, I was the only person looking like me, even in my household. And, the story behind that is, let me just give you the short
Yeah.
story is my mom, what she did is she cleaned houses for a living, and she would have done odd jobs. And let me just say that I look this way and not like my siblings, because she practically had a job, and I look just like her boss because her boss happens to be my father. if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I never really had a relationship directly with my dad because from a, I would say from a cultural standpoint, I would never have been accepted,
Mhm.
right? So my mom worked for him, and then I am a result of that. Now, coming from the poor sector of society, and then knowing very well that, my dad was a businessman, never meeting him young. A matter of fact, to this day, I only met him 3 times in my entire life.
Mhm.
But growing up poor, right, or growing up in the poor part of Trinidad and Tobago, and having to see my mom struggle, having to see her become an economist, maximizing the minimum in her income, I always had the desire to understand, to appreciate what was the difference between the poor and the rich. Because
Mhm.
here it is, my experience told me that, we never had enough. We never had enough finances. And here it is at the back of my mind, I heard at least that my father was a businessman.
Mhm.
I heard that he had it pretty okay financially. But I never saw the results or the rewards of having him as a father because remember, I only ever saw him 3 times up to this day in my life. So I always had the question and the desire to understand the difference between what is the rich and what is and the poor practically. And I would have done exactly what my mom told me, which is go to school, get good grades, attain a job,
Mhm.
work my way up the corporate ladder. At least that was the objective. I played professional football in my teens, so I always tell my team the story that I had a promising football career in Trinidad. But at one point in time, my mom had a conversation with me, and she said, "Hey, Kishon, here's the thing: you have to make a choice between football and school." And at that point in time, the best of my understanding, or the best of our understanding as a family, was taking the little resources that we had and putting it towards education seemed like the best and the better thing to do. So that's exactly what I did. I decided to say no to football because we didn't have enough money to facilitate both activities.
Right.
And even when doing that, I had to work part time as a teen. And I could also say that, working part time as a teen, looking around at the left of my shoulders, at the right of my shoulders, I had many peers, I would say, that didn't have to work weekends or didn't have to work late Friday nights because we were in the same schools, we were learning the same curriculums, but we didn't have the same experiences at home.
Mhm.
You see, I had to go the extra mile. I had to assist my mom. And I had this mindset from ever since I was 2, 3 years of age. I knew that I had to assist my mom because I was the man at home at 3 years old. I was the man at home at 5 years old. So
Wow.
even in my teens, that the responsibility was embedded into me as a man and as a leader, right? Having to do what I had to do, irrespective of the fact that in my peers had parents that were able to facilitate their schooling and their lifestyles. So my life was very different from the average person that I went to school with simply because of our financial situations at home, you
Right.
know. And I would have worked part time while going to school. And then, I was able to enter law class for 1 year. And I usually tell my team members the exact same reason that I had to stop football is the exact same reason I had to stop law. We did not have enough money, irrespective of the fact that I was working part time. It just wasn't adding up to, what would have allowed me to further my studies. But as God would have it, I was introduced to Rich Dad Poor Dad
Mhm.
while working part time. And I kid you not, for some strange reason, after reading that book within the first 30 days of internalizing the information in that book, I made a 360-degree turn, like
Wow.
literally 30 days. And most persons ask, why were you so certain? And let me just tell you why I was so certain at that point in time. You see, my desire to have certain questions answered was ignited at a very early age. My desire to understand the difference between the rich and the poor was ignited at the age of 3, at the age of 4, at the age of 5. And for about, I would say, a decade plus, I have been yearning and seeking after genuinely the answers between what separates the rich from the poor.
Mm.
And reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, reading Robert Kiyosaki's work, I was able to have answers in 2 hours that I was searching for my entire lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is why it was so clear to me. And this is why it didn't take me more than 30 days. And I literally quit my job. Now, I don't recommend it, to the average man getting in entrepreneurship right now, but I had to do it. And I had to do it because, I always tell persons that a man or a woman that is seeking after an answer, when it's found, transformation takes place. In other words, it's always better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Exactly.
The same with information. Many persons never get transformation because they stumble upon the right information in the wrong time. And I believe that I stumbled upon the right information way after the time. It was expired for me. I wanted that information way before I got it. So when I got it, I consumed it. I digested. I became.
Mm.
And I'm going to give a little synopsis of what I saw in that book for those who are probably searching or seeking still. The book is a real life story of Robert Kiyosaki's life. And, he always highlights that, he had 2 influences in his life: his real father, biological father, best friend's father. And, the twist in the story is his real father, his biological father, was the minister of education. His father was the person responsible for setting the curriculum of an entire nation, Hawaii. And here it is, you have a PhD qualified, someone that has a massive influence over the minds of a nation. At the end of his life, he died a broke man and he left bills to be paid, highly allocated. And then the guy that taught him about money, his best friend's father, or as he says in the book, Mike's dad. Mike's dad, he dropped out of school in the 8th grade. I speak to people every day and I say, hey, take a look at this. Have you went to secondary school? 99% out of the time, they would have gone to secondary school. I say, here it is. This is a guy that dropped out of school in primary school. He never had the privilege of walking step into a secondary school, but this is the man that taught Robert Kiyosaki about money. And ultimately, at the end of his life, he became one of the top wealthiest men in the same said country. So look at the contrast. Here it is, you have the PhD, you have the highly qualified, you have the minister of education, dying a broke man, leaving bills to be paid, but you have somebody that never stepped foot in a secondary school becoming one of the wealthiest men in the same said country. And then, of course, Kiyosaki started to highlight the points and the differences between what the rich teach their children that the poor and the middle class can't, because they don't have the information. So that was a turning point for me. Yeah, definitely was a turning point for me. And, I had what we call fuel, right, to the fire, to continue my journey of one, deciding to become a student to the space, deciding to become financially literate because I recognized that I was not. I recognized that I was culturalized. I even like to say colonialized, to be an 8 to 4, 9 to 5 worker. And that book would have been, my unplug moment. I would have been able to unplug from the matrix with that information. And, I made a mental, personal, I even made a decision to God being my witness that I'm going to spend the rest of my life studying success, studying financial literacy, building in the space of network marketing, and giving to those as I receive.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. You know, Keyshawn, thank you for being so transparent.
Yes, sir.
open, and something you shared with me or shared with us about the beginning. I just want to go back and ask you,
Yeah.
growing up, and saying you're looking to your left and looking to your right, whether you're in the community or whether you're in your own household, and really not seeing your direct reflection, not seeing,
Yeah.
your brother, your family. That listen, did you ever deal with in your adolescence and your youth and like insecurity or identity crisis or
Yes.
a lack of confidence? And if so, how did you deal with that? Because I see you as a very bold and confident man. So in those days when you were dealing with that, tell me a little bit about that struggle before we move forward.
Sure, sure. So, like for example, my mom should always joke about it, and I mean, the entire neighborhood calls me Chinese. So,
Mm,
like, if you go to my neighborhood and you say, I mean, today they may recognize Kishon Vane, the name Kishon Vane, but if you were to go back into my community, let's say 5 years back, and you ask for Kishon Vane, no one knew who that was. Yeah, what they will say is who? Chinese or the Chinese boy from on the hill. And the reason they would refer to me in that manner, it was because I was the only one with my my image. Look it to the left, look it to the right. And yes, my mom would also call me Chinese and she would joke about it. And yeah, I at once in my life, I would also not identify with that part of myself
mm,
because of the fact that I didn't look like my brother, I didn't look like my sister, I didn't look like my cousin, I didn't look like anyone around. So definitely, I had a lot of challenges in that regard. But I could also say that looking different allowed me to, I would say, put on some extra muscle because I always had to fight extra in my community, at least because I looked different. So I was always a fighter.
yeah, 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 I love it.
In school, if you ask my mom today, she would say you caused me so much trouble because I would be fighting the most.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, it developed wing muscles. And
Definitely.
and I could remember the many times that I was blessed to come to Trinidad and work and have and work with you. I saw I saw a glow. It was a glow and a strength of character. By the time I met you, I think I you were still searching.
Yeah, for
You,
sure.
you definitely had that fire. That flame had been lit,
Yeah,
but that adversity became your number one weapon
correct.
because you stood
Definitely.
out,
Yeah.
and and I think you begin to use it to your advantage because when you have some differences, when you do stand out and you use it the right way, it kind of can spark some attraction powers. Uh,
Yeah.
and then when you add confidence and the ability to communicate a message, then you become a lethal weapon for the community. And that's what I was starting to witness. Like, okay, this kid's got the glow, you know. And so, uh, Angels Felix says very inspirational. So this is good. What's up, Scott? Scott is out there saying, yes, yes, you develop those wing muscles. So listen, let's um let's move on and let's talk a little bit about uh the five pillars
Yes.
that absolutely define the uncommon movement. Um and and we'll kind of dip back and forth into some personal things as well.
Sure.
But the uncommon movement, first and foremost, is grounded on us having conversations with men from 16 of years of age up
Right.
about what we define to be success. And the first thing that I think is very important is our health. I think our health is our wealth. I think we're living in a time, Keyshawn, where globally we're dealing with some serious things, man. It's like a chemical warfare against the masses.
Yeah.
Most of the foods that we eat are genetically modified. Most of the foods that we eat are processed. There's one thing about the Caribbean nations. There's an indigenous quality. I mean, I know you love your KFCs. That KFC in Diego Martin, boy, that thing is historical, legendary. I just stay out there, man. Yeah, so, but outside of the KFCs, I always feel that there's a closeness to more organic agriculture whenever you deal with Caribbean nation, and that's a big time blessing. I
Yeah,
know here in the States, it's just like everything is processed. Organic, healthy food is very expensive. I believe you are what you eat. And I think that we eat so much genetically modified foods, eventually it starts to have an impact on your own DNA. You
yeah,
know, um, and so we have uh, a lot of issues. I think most of the diseases that we're dealing with are sparked from some level of constipation in the body, and just too much starch turning into excess sugar, and the diabetes and the high blood pressure, the cardiovascular issues are just through the roof, right?
yeah.
And so I watch you on social media, and I kind of see that physical fitness is really important to you. I think as it's always been. But tell me about your regimen. What do you do when it pertains? How do you eat? Your family, as it pertains to health and wellness, health and fitness. How important is that for you, your team, your family? What are you doing now?
Okay, I mean it's utmost important because the house is the only way we have to live, and when I say the house, I mean the body, right? So we want to maintain the house. Currently, I do a protein and veg diet, high protein,
Mm.
high veg diet. I cheat, every week, sometimes one day or two, right? As you rightfully said with the KFC, because yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I do. But definitely, at least 5 to 6 times out of the day, I try to have a high protein diet with veg, and exercise. I exercise every single day. Today I didn't exercise because I was sore from yesterday's activities, and it's not just me; it's our entire community. Shout out to the community. We're called the Billionaire Club, right? And even in our trainings, we couple our personal growth and development to health and wellness. I tell the team that you know we compare success in the networking space to success in our body. And let me just share some of the concepts that we use. When you go into the military, one of the primary objective that they have is taking the civilian out of you before building the army inside of you. And many persons come to our community and they want to learn, but we tell them you have to unlearn before you learn.
Mm.
And just like health and wellness, we have two things that's also common. We have fat and muscle. And I tell them, listen, fat is the unlearning process. It's about taking the fat out of the body, but then simultaneously building the muscle. And that's how we see it. So we try to extract, the fat out of the body by building the muscle. And similar to that, we tell persons our job is to break the employee out of you in the mind and then
Mm.
introduce the entrepreneur that lives inside. So
Mm.
this is like the mindset that we have, the comparative with health and wellness and personal growth and development. We take the employee out of you, we introduce the entrepreneur into you. We strip the fat out of the body, and then we maximize on building the muscle. So that's the parallel our
Okay.
community utilizes on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Do you find any challenges
Ah,
inspiring, not just for you, but what maybe the person in your personal life, your team? Do you have any challenges trying to inspire people to put their health first? How has that been?
well, I wouldn't say we have seen any challenges per se,
Hmm.
because you become your environment. And I mean, I learned from the best, and I'm speaking to the best. I'm speaking to that person. I remember having a conversation with you, and you would have made mention to stimulating growth through stimulating environment, because we are the environment. So our team, we try to control the environment to foster, to facilitate you know that common activity of that being a part of who we are. So there's not much challenges in terms of persons, kicking up against it, because once you start association, as we say, association breeds transformation. So from
Mm.
the association, the transformation itself happens naturally.
I'm trying to take notes while I'm listening to you. You dropping the nuggets, boy, and the Trinidad Army is on here listening. They listen to the master tonight, boy. They hear and they showing a lot of love. And so, okay, I love it. I love it. I think that was good. And so I want to move on to the second pillar
Yeah.
of the uncommon movement. And I want everyone to get this: man, woman, child. This is where the revolution really begins, because in many households and communities and many churches, health and wellness is prominent conversation. There's a shift happening. The world is becoming more spiritual, more health conscious. But this financial literacy conversation,
Hmm.
Sean, is where I have a lot of passion, and it's been,
Yeah.
and you know that this has been really the fuel for our network marketing exploits, our entrepreneurial desires. And here's how I see it, brother. At the end of the day, you know, I think we got to continue waking people up to let them know what real freedom is.
Correct.
And freedom is not just spiritual. It's not just mindset. It's not just psychological stability and beautiful relationships. All those things are real success and real freedom. But I believe we have to continue to impress on the people's minds that poverty and lack is not a birthright. Our birthright is abundance, it's wealth, it's dominion. And this thing about financial literacy, specifically residual income,
Hmm.
is the conversation for the day. And I want to know how you feel about that, because, you know, what I share when we speak on this around the world is a concept that we all have residual bills. And I would ask a person, man, how do you pay residual bills with an hourly wage? It's insanity. It doesn't work. Okay.
Correct.
So the thing is, you want to create enough residual income to pay those residual bills. And then you can experience that first phase of freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom, time, right? And I think that's something we don't get back. I know it's something we don't get back. And let's talk about this, man, because at the end of the day, most people know it, but I don't think they have the courage to take a journey of the unknown and fight through whatever it takes to build something that's going to pay them when they're not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, talk to me about financial literacy. I mean, we talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I know, but maybe a different angle of just what it means to you,
Sure.
your family, and why you're working so hard. Talk to me about financial literacy and specifically residual income.
Definitely. I remember when connecting with you for the first time, as you were, you introduced me to the science of getting rich, right?
Oh,
And
Wallace D. Waddles.
yeah, I can remember you saying right now, in like I can hear you. No matter what would be said in the praise of poverty, the fact remains that you can never live a fulfilled life without having money to get those things with. Like I can hear that in the back of my mind right
And you know
now.
the amazing thing, I remember us having that conversation now, and this is so many years ago. But wouldn't you agree you can only have that bold conversation with someone who's ready?
Correct. Correct.
Because you can insult the wrong person
Exactly.
if they're not mentally ready to receive that and be activated.
Yeah.
Yes, that changed my life, and wow, absolutely. Go ahead, brother. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, that was definitely the seed that did it for me, because after we had that conversation, that was enough equipment or ammunition that allowed me to connect with, at that point in time, something called the Black Caucus movement in Trinidad. And what I would have done is I would have practically just copied and pasted the conversation that you had with me to them, and the copy and paste in that information allowed me to be the head of the youth arm in that space.
Wow.
Now, that allowed me to have, access to persons who had, success in their regard. And I remember hearing one thing that still stands out to me. For persons who are of African ancestry all across the world, you have seen so many historical references of revolutions where we would have fought for equality and justice.
Mm,
But when would we ever ignite or start a financial revolution?
mm,
Because if you have finances at your side, you don't need to have or fight for equality, you would have it. I remember listening to
mm.
Reverend Ike, and he said, "Listen, I don't stand for white power, I don't stand for black power, I stand for green
Green power.
power. Because if you have enough of it, you can make decisions and choices." And this is why we fight so hard to firstly bring financial literacy into the community so that persons could understand, they could have what they desire today. They could have what they desire now, not in the sweet by and by, but they have the power to create anything that they desire now. But the only way to get access to that is by creating a system where you can
Mm,
save yourself time, effort, energy, and money. And as you rightfully say, your system has to allow you a flow, a consistent flow, a residue of income that
mm,
will flow long after you built something. And this
mm.
is why network marketing, this is why the industry where the average man gets to build a community, gets to build a system where he can earn income whenever, even if he's on the beach,
Mm,
even if he's on vacation.
mhm.
And that is the pillar of wealth itself, having a residue of income that consistently flows long after you built something.
Yes. And I love what you made mention to, because for everyone listening out there, you know, I think integrity is the heart and soul of real leadership in this
Yeah,
industry. And I look at you as very integrous, a man with a tremendous amount of integrity. I know for me, integrity comes with telling the truth, right? And
correct.
so, network marketing, entrepreneurship, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not a get rich quick pie in the sky. Do a couple of things and you'll be on the beaches of the world. No, it's what Keyshawn just mentioned. Can you build and, and align with a system that is simple and duplicatable? And until you get 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people on a duplicatable system that's based in simplicity, that pretty much everyone and anyone can do, appealing to the masses. Once you get that rolling, then you will experience, that freedom of residual income. And no, and it won't happen before that. Okay,
Correct.
you may get financial relief. So this industry is really about two phases. It's about that phase of financial relief, which you may find through retail aspirations. You may find financial relief by building small teams and trial and error and going through the pain and being refined through all the pressure. But that financial freedom comes from a person who has really maximized their personal growth and development, their leadership skills, which is what I want to talk about next, and really built that system and made people believe.
Correct.
Um, I wanna take that as a segue into this third pillar, because there's a gentleman on here watching us who I look up to. His name is Wally, Hakeem, and he left a comment, and he's one of my great mentors.
Awesome.
And it's so nice to have him on here. And he eats and breathes and sleeps and walks and talks personal growth and development. And he pulled me to the side when I was in my teens, and he introduced me to Napoleon Hill, and and that changed my life. I can just remember. So we have levels on here tonight, and Keyshawn, one thing that I remember Wally saying to me, he said, "Clavon, what is money?
Mm,
And I remember, kind of like dancing around it. And he said, well, no, well, what does money represent? And I danced around it, and he said, well, let's get right to it. He said, money represents value.
correct.
He said, money as a standalone, we were just talking about like currency, paper, it's just processed from a tree with ink on it. It's nothing as it stands alone, but it represents something. So now you look around your house, everyone, and everything you see has a monetary representation, a value assigned to it.
Correct.
And so he said to me, he said, well, here's the deal. You don't have to outwork everyone to make money. You simply have to increase your value because
Wow.
money represents value.
Yeah.
And the day that that hit me, we have those moments, right? Those paradigm shifting moments. The day I realized that money represents value, and if I want more money, I simply have to increase my value
Correct.
and then bring more value to the community, to the market, become more valuable and bring more value. And when I became obsessed with that, my income increased every single year,
Yeah.
you know? And so, as we talk about personal growth and development, I mean, I was so humbled by the things you said in the beginning. But between Robert Kiyosaki and in our relationship and so many others, I heard you mention Reverend Ike,
Yeah.
and Miles Monroe. I'm listening to all the greats, brother. Who are some of your other mentors? Where are you at right now? I mean, take us somewhere. I mean, it's so cliche, right? Personal growth and development. But I just told you I am committed to increasing my value every 30 days, every 90 days, every 6 months, every year. If I don't look in the mirror and see a better version of myself, I know
Yeah.
something's not right. I fight for it. It is an obsession, is what I live for, to become
Correct.
more valuable, self-mastery, right? So where are you with it right now? What has been some of your shifts in the last couple of years? What are you studying right now? Who are some of your current mentors? Talk to me about personal growth and development and what that means for you and even your career.
Sure, sure. Like currently, one of my personal mentors is on the call right now. Shout out to Dr. Ian Cummins. I know he could still go right ahead and drop some flames in the chat. Recognize because he's the person that's mentoring me right now, and not just me, but the group itself. And I got a quote from him. He says, "Until you grow there, you're not gonna go there." And personal growth and development is the pillar of our entire community itself. Not just Dr. Ian Cummins, but Miles Monroe. I would have, really studied his stuff. Really, really studied his stuff. Miles Monroe, and he has a lot of videos on value online, and I mean it's free. I remember Miles Monroe saying, if you want to be successful, he said, don't pursue success. Rather, seek to become a person of value. And as you grow in your value, the monetary equivalent happens to appear itself to
Hmm.
equate who you are. So you have to become it to attract it, right? Good night there. So that our special guest is online with us. Good afternoon, sir. Good to see you.
Yeah, I
Good
was
to
just
see
gonna
you.
let you finish your statement and introduce Dan. For 23 episodes, this has been, uh, I'm Robin. That's Batman right there. For 23 episodes, and again, we're so committed to this podcast that he doesn't even fly with all his international business on Mondays, but he figured he could sneak a 3 p.m. flight and still get to the office. But we had already explained to the world, Dan, how your flight got backed up 3 hours. And at the end of the day, guys, this is Dan Putnam, a co-host and actually the visionary founder of the Uncommon Movement. And so glad you're joining us, Dan. And me and Keyshawn are having an amazing conversation down
Awesome.
to this
Awesome.
third pillar. Dan, I want to jump you right in here because you designed these 5 pillars, and I want to kind of just ask you what made personal growth and development sit right there in that third spot. Why is it so important to you? And then we'll just get back with, Keyshawn, you can kind of add on. But I
Sure.
want to hear from you, Mr. Putnam. I'm glad you made it, partner. How you feeling tonight?
Feeling fantastic. Yeah, you know what? It's really the goal is to help people reach the top 1% in the personal health and fitness, and then financial literacy, more focused on residual income so they control the time.
Yeah.
So that's really the goal, to help people be as healthy as they can for as long as they can, and then make as much money residually as they can so they can completely control their time. Now, in order to achieve that goal, most people have to develop as a person. They have to understand how this whole thing works.
Correct.
So that's where personal development and accountability come in. And then the fifth one, giving back, is really what I think is going to keep people grounded, keep them happy, keep them passionate. And that's really what success is. Like if I give my definition of success right now, being 50 years old, it really is peace, happiness, calmness in life. Now, if you asked me when I was 20 or 30, then success would have been more determined by, money and objects and things like that. But it didn't take that long before I realized that at the end of the day, a car is a car. And hey, I like cars. A house is a house. And I love beautiful houses. But as you get these things, you can start to realize that, man, there's a lot that comes along with that. A lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep, a lot of other things that sometimes they start to become a hassle. And so many people that I know that have made tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, after a while, they start to downsize a little bit because of how much work and upkeep and expense that you're constantly putting out. And so I've just really thought about it over the last maybe 7-8 years and thought, you know what? Success really is being happy with who you are, where you are, being at peace, being calm. And one of the things that I've noticed is giving back pretty much always, brings everything together. I've got to the point that I'd much rather, give away a car, something that somebody worked their butt off for that they earned, than to buy one for myself or give away a trip or something like that. Once you experience all this stuff, I'm going to tell you, it's awesome. It's definitely worth doing. But once you do it, I don't know if you just kind of start to take it for granted or whatever, but it becomes a point that, it just, an object is an object. But when some people have never experienced it, when they've never had it, that feeling of wanting to let them experience it is what I think brings a lot of that happiness. But the whole concept of personal growth and development is, you guys were going back and forth and hitting it perfectly. But it's really about having the mentors that have done it, having the belief that you can do it, continually moving forward. Because here's what I've noticed. The times in my life that I thought everything was going incredible, business is booming, personal relationships, everything is perfect. You take your foot off the gas just a little bit, and then all of a sudden things start to unravel. And you start to think, man, what in the world's going on here? Everything was going so good. But I've just noticed that in 2020, 2021, 23, 24, as we move forward, things don't slow down. So if you're not moving forward and continually progressing, you actually start moving backwards. But I really think several things. I mean, the entire purpose of this podcast is just because I know for 100% fact that success is a process. And as we've interviewed these uncommon men and these people who have become successful, we've noticed that they have much more in common than not. And I guarantee you, if we interviewed unsuccessful people, we'd see that they have also many things in common that are keeping them where they're at. And so I love the thing. I've heard it many times, but it just really makes me think. And that's that whole concept that everybody should have a goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, but for the type of person that you have to become in order to be worth $1 million. And that's worth more than the money. Correct. I remember when I was young, a lot of times on Sunday nights, my parents would go for a drive and drive the kids around. And we'd normally go to the nicer neighborhoods. And and just kind of see all these houses. And I used to think to myself, and even now, I think to myself when I go to different places and see these amazing houses, and it just comes to me, what type of person did somebody have to become in order to have a house like that? I was on the coast in January and down past Long Beach, Los Angeles, all that area down there into Malibu. The average house that we was looking at on the beach, it was about $40 million. And when you're getting into $40 million houses, that's next level stuff. And then you come and you realize that most of those houses that are 40, 50, 60, 70 million dollars, those aren't even the people's first home. Those are their getaway beach houses. And so I think to myself, what type of person do you have to become in order to be able to make those decisions? And here's another thing why I'm so passionate about this movement. You have to think about this. We're in 2024. Just being alive at this time is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Think about if we went back 100 years, 1924. Go back 200 years, 1824. I imagine in 1824, most people never traveled more than 20, 30, 40, 50 miles from where they were born. 1924, most people, probably the majority of people, never really traveled much outside of their town. Maybe there's enough technology there, trains and stuff like that they are traveling state to state. But you have to realize a few hours ago I was in a different country.
Right.
And so here's what I look at. Every single person should have the ability to experience what's capable in 2024, which is traveling all over the world. First class, staying at the nicest resorts, eating at the nicest restaurants. Life is about experience. Money enables you to have more of those experiences. But here's the thing. In 2024, it's a shame that if somebody doesn't have the ability to experience some of these absolutely amazing things in life. And so my goal with this uncommon movement is to give them the knowledge, give them the opportunity, give them the mentorship, give them the systems so that they can realize who they are and what they're capable of as a human being. Think about that.
Yeah.
When you see all of these people, all of these human beings, and then you realize that our DNA is like 99 point something percent identical. We're basically, what that means is we're pretty much capable of the exact same things that any other human being is capable of. But it doesn't happen if we don't know the recipe. It doesn't happen if we are just, it's just beat into our head day after day, year after year, decade after decade, that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we don't look right, we're not the right color, we're not the right religion, we're not the right at this or that or whatever. And it just keeps getting beat in the head, beat in the head, beat in the head until you finally start to believe it. And then when you start to finally believe it, then you accept it and you quit pushing for anymore. And so the whole goal of personal development, the whole goal of this movement is first off to get people to realize who they are, what they're capable of as a human being, and then just to leave as many clues as we possibly can so that they can finally find that person that they identify with and think, man, if Keyshawn can do it in Trinidad and Clavon can do it and Dan can do it and all these other people can do it, and this is how they did it, and this is the blueprint, and this is who they listen to, and this is what they read, and this is what they watch, and this is what they do on a daily basis, then that's the goal, is to get them to realize that here's the bottom line. You are where you are today because of the decisions that you've made for the last months, the last weeks, the last years, the last decades. That's what's put you where you are. And so often you get that mentality of that victim mentality. That, oh no, it's this person's fault. It's this person. This happened to me. That's why, it's everything but you. Obviously, I'm going to be the first to admit bad things happen. Life is not fair.
Right.
But you have to get that mindset where you not only accept that, but you appreciate it and you like it better that way. Meaning you like that things are hard. Because if things were easy, everybody would do it. Exactly. There would be no feeling of excitement when you finally reach those goals. If everybody was reaching them, then you would probably be wanting to do something else. But when things get hard, you feel like quitting, that switch in your brain has to click on and say, hey, this is where most people quit. Mm-hmm. This right here is what keeps most people from having the success that they're capable of. Because they get to the point and then they finally say, you know what? I don't think I can do it. I don't think this is going to work out. And as humans, we have two main things. We have beliefs and we have doubts. And when we first make that decision that we're going to start this business, we're going to join this company, we're going to do this, we're going to do whatever, that belief level is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Then we start to have those first couple things go wrong. And then those doubts start to creep in a little bit, another one. And then where the failure happens is when that goes all the way around and you start believing your doubts mm-hmm. and doubting your beliefs. That's when you lose in this game. Yeah. And
that's
so
the perfect segue.
That's really the whole concept is to understand that. So I just feel that personal development mm-hmm. is one of those factors that helps put this whole thing together in order for somebody to A, make a decision to even try, B, have belief in themselves, and then C, have something to kind of lean on when those doubts start to take over and that belief level starts to go down. And that personal development and just hearing that message of that happens to everybody. I think so often that we think that we're super unique as an individual. And we think that when we see somebody that's ultra successful, we think that it was easy for them because of whatever, where they're from, who their parents are, whatever. We always think that, it was easy for them. But if you study success long enough, you're going to find people from every background, the worst home situations you can possibly imagine, and they break through and become successful. And you'll see the opposite too. You'll see people who had the best upbringing, the best opportunity in the world, and they completely screw it up and blow it. And so the success or the lack thereof is 100% based on you. And that's really what we want to get out into the marketplace here is, here's the bottom line. Keyshawn Clavon, who makes decisions? I mean, you make the decisions. There could be consequences, but it's still your decision to do whatever you want to do. And I think a lot of times people don't want to, they don't want to take that responsibility. Because if it's all up to me and I'm not where I want to be, then I don't like that situation. I'd much rather say that it's this person's fault or this person's fault or this happened or that happened. Okay, that all happened, but at the end of the day, who are you? What do you represent?
Right.
And are you the person that as soon as somebody screws you over and things go to shit that you just pack up and go and say, oh yeah, but this happened and it wasn't fair. Okay. Of course that happened. You don't think that's happened to hundreds of other people, thousands of other people? And so the personal development just kind of gives you some tools in your toolbox in order to keep pushing forward when your mind is saying, no, you can't do it. All those doubts and all that stuff. If you're listening to people constantly every single day say, no, Keyshawn, you can do it. I went through the same things. You just keep pushing. Let's change the strategy a little bit. Let's try this.
And you know, Dan, that's the perfect segue into our fourth pillar, because you keep mentioning the doubt and the fear, and I know we all go through that. You know, Keyshawn, I know you've experienced it. You know,
Sure.
and I think that's the reason why Dan put accountability as the fourth pillar. And I just think that that's an important part of this conversation. You know, is this concept of, you know, have you experienced that in your journey recently? That's something, you know, it takes a tremendous amount of transparency and vulnerability to talk about doubt and fear at this stage of our careers. But uh, I want to just ask you, and then I'm going to pass it back to Dan,
Sure.
about the need for accountability, not just you holding your team accountable as a
Mhm.
part of your business principles, but do you have mentors? Do you have accountability systems that you align yourself with? And can you talk about accountability and what that means as it pertains to what Dan's talking about? You know, doubt
Definitely.
and fear. Hmm.
Definitely. I mean, I could say for certain that my team, who is listening, they know within the last 3 years we had some challenges, and we definitely had to be accountable to each other. Our brother's keeper in that regard. And it's while facing fear. I mean, we were taught that courage is not the absence of fear while you act. A matter of fact, courage is having the presence of fear while you continue to push through, even when you don't want to. you know so this is definitely the path towards success. Always having someone that went before, because the person that went before could give you what we call the experience position as to what you can or can't expect going through the challenges. And the highest level of my accountability is towards the Creator and God. And my scripture, and one of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 23. And it highlights, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for thou art with me. I mean, this is an example of where you're going through fear. And it's all about understanding that this is the process through too. So yeah, we hold ourselves accountable, and we do have persons in the community with the experience that we go to and ask for their knowledge, their experience knowledge, that is as to what's the best approach, what's the best direction. And we do that amongst ourselves as well. So definitely it's a pillar of success. I could see that 1000%. Even sometimes having conversations with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, Dan, we take accountability really seriously with the uncommon movement. I know me personally, I've never seen any movement worthwhile succeed without accountability. And mostly those that fail are because there was no structured accountability. It was not a big part of the system. So, Dan, I want to pass it back to you, just to talk about accountability. And if you can segue Keyshawn into the fifth pillar, because I'm really excited to hear, your vision on number 5, giving back, and what Keyshawn's got going on out there in Trinidad. But Dan, again, like, what's accountability mean to you? Not just with the uncommon movement, Dan, but I'm talking about 20 years of you building global business and billion-dollar companies. How important has accountability been to you and the teams that you've led?
Well, you know what? I think in the type of business that I've built, not being able to enforce accountability is really the thing that keeps the numbers in the format that they are. And the example I give is, like, if you look at a McDonald's franchise, the only reason they're so successful is they can enforce their system. Where we work with independent distributors, we can't enforce the system. And so there's no way to have the type of success that you could, because here's what I can tell you. I know without a doubt, I have 100% success rate system. No question. Nobody will ever fail. But most fail because I can't enforce it. I can't do anything to them. And so the only thing that I have is the accountability. And so I've had to learn some basic techniques to get something to hold them accountable to. Because if I have nothing to hold them accountable to, then there really is no accountability. And here's the bottom line. Most people have no self-respect. So most people are completely fine with lying to themselves over and over and over. They may not lie to others. They may be an honest person. They may think that they have integrity, but the integrity starts with yourself. And so you kind of have to look at that. If there's somebody who's always lying to you, who's never doing what they say, their word means nothing. They have no responsibility. They're full of excuses. Is that a person that you would like? Is that a person that you would want on your team? And most people would say, no. If somebody's constantly disrespecting me, lying to me, never holding their word, that's not somebody I would want to partner with or work with. But yet that's the definition of our relationship with ourself in most cases. So accountability starts with yourself, but because for whatever reason, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I always am like, okay, I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to start on Monday or whatever, in all different things. I lie to myself way more than I would ever. I do things to myself that I would never think about doing to somebody else. So because just with human nature, we kind of don't hold our word to ourselves. Having that accountability partner a lot of times is needed, because we would let ourselves down 100 times before we would let somebody else down. And so that's why when somebody decides that they're going to get in shape and they get a couple gym partners, and it just depends on who's the strongest one, because if you know that somebody's going to be there, you're probably going to be there, because you don't want to be hearing like, Clavon, what happened this morning? I was there. You didn't show up. But in your mind, you're thinking, you know what? I haven't heard from Dan. He's probably not going, so I'm not going to go. Meaning if you're expecting that text, hey, Clavon, you going to the gym? Everybody's looking for that first excuse to be able to opt out and to be let off the hook. And so having those accountability partners is necessary if you're truly serious about success and serious about reaching your goals. And the reason it's so important is we've already proven that we're not accountable to ourselves in most cases. That's why, like, if you look at the top 1% in health and fitness and top 1% in incomes in the world, it's not very good. You don't have to be very good to get in the top 1%. That's a bad thing. Like when we talk about where we really want people to get, that's more like the top 100th of 1%. That's not the top 1%. And so if everybody was self-accountable and everybody had self-respect and things like that, it wouldn't be that way. Way more people would be getting to where people think success lies. And so I think accountability is key. Clavon, you've said it a couple times that I think was a perfect example. If you look at the U.S. military or any of the militaries around the world, they have very strict accountability in everything they do. And just think if they didn't, how things would run. Right. If you have anything that it has to be run like perfectly or somebody dies, accountability is at the utmost importance. You have to be able to count on that person to do what he says he's going to do. He has to be where he says he's going to be. He has to be paying attention. And if he's not, people die.
And Dan, you notice, you just sparked my mind back with that analogy. You notice that those systems, the team members love each other way more than any other fabric of humanity. Like two men sharing a bunker where the accountability is life or death. They love each other forever, so
Yeah.
deeply, even after the war. Like that camaraderie that those soldiers have. I'm now thinking it's based on dependability, the dependability that you have with another human being that's grounded in accountability.
Well, I can tell you it's the same way in business, though. You
Mm,
know, we're not talking about life or death like the life, but we are talking about life or death of the business, success or failure.
right.
So you can put it either way. You help somebody succeed in business that's never succeeded before. You help them make that first 100,000 a year, then 100,000 a month, then
That's true.
100,000 a week. That person has basically been in the bunker with you.
Right.
And that person probably is that almost that similar type of relationship because they know they can count on you. They know you're going to do what you say you're going to do and all of those things. We're not in a bunker, you know, trying not to get killed, you know, kill or be killed, not that type of a thing. But when you look at the business, success or fail, there's I think almost everybody can go down and narrow it down to the person that cared enough about them to keep them from failing. Because I guarantee you, throughout my businesses, there was hundreds of times that I felt like quitting. And the first times I kind of had somebody else push me and keep me going.
Yeah.
Because there was a while before I was pushing myself and getting that mindset, like I said, that, hey, go ahead and make it harder. Make it take longer. Make me have to have more contacts. Push harder. I don't care. Because I understand that you want things to be hard if you're going to go to the next level and become successful. And the reason why is that's the type of person that you have to become that can do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of people that can. Some people talk a good game, but as soon as I hear so many times, and just talking about my business, not mentioning any names, but so and so, I have all these leaders and they quit because customer service was rude. And I feel like saying, are you freaking kidding me? What's your definition of leader? Because it's not the same as mine. Your leaders quit because customer service was rude or because that order got shipped wrong. Your leaders quit because of that. And then I want to take it to the next level. You want to know why your income is what it is? Because those are the people that you think are leaders.
Right.
Leaders don't quit because customer service is rude. Leaders don't quit because an order is shipped wrong. Leaders don't quit. Period. And that's the thing that I think is interesting in life and in business. A lot of people quit. People quit every day. Not leaders.
No.
And so that's something that I've had to get in my mindset. You don't think that pretty much every single day, including now, probably times today, that made me start to have doubts and things like that? Of course. But I embrace it and I welcome it. Say, hey, bring it on. Let's go.
Let's go.
Because something has to show you how serious are you. Are you really serious about this? Or are you just talking? If you're serious, doesn't matter how hard it is. You're going to push through. So accountability is just, again, it's necessary in order to keep us. So many times, literally, we're our own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. And so that accountability helps keep us on track because we'll lie to ourselves every single day of the week and not think anything of it.
Yes, we will.
But we typically do not do that to other people. We eventually start not saying we're going to do it if they're truly holding us accountable. That's the issue, is you really need some people that will hold you accountable for what you say you're going to do. A lot of people are afraid to hold somebody accountable because they don't want to offend them. They don't want to hurt that relationship. But you just really have to get to understand. And if you see some of the top leaders in business, people either love them or hate them. And the people that love them are the people that kind of tuned in and followed the leadership and became successful. The people that don't are just like, man, that guy's a jerk. He's like this, that, and yeah, but why? I mean, some people are just jerks. I'm not saying that there aren't any, but at the other side of it, I mean, if you really want somebody that's going to help you become successful, it's not always going to be nice conversations.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to be, do you really want this? Or are you just saying that you want it? Because what you're saying you want and the actions you're doing aren't going to do it. My mom used to always tell me, are the actions that you're doing going to meet your needs? Or are the actions that you're doing meeting your needs? Because you kind of have to look at that. If I'm doing this, is it going to achieve this? And a lot of times, if we're honest with ourselves, we realize that it's not even close. I'm not even in the ballpark of where I need to be to have the success that I'm talking about. So anyways, I don't want to ramble on and on about accountability, but I do think that the fifth thing, giving back, is something that a saying that I heard a long time ago that I've always just kind of liked. It says you never go broke by giving. And a lot of times people think that you give all this money and you're going to run out of money, but I don't think that happens very often. I think the world has a unique way of things working out for good people. And I don't know exactly, if that's 100% true, but I believe it. And I think that it's not only giving money. It's just like Keyshawn's giving his time right here, his knowledge, and those types of things. That's giving back. Our most valuable asset, more valuable than money, is time.
Correct.
So anytime people think, oh, I would love to give back, I would love to give away a car, I'd love to give away this, I'd love to give away that. Well, guess what? Your most valuable asset is your time. Everybody can give a little bit of their time to help somebody out. And even if it's just a smile, I don't know if this is true. A lot of times, how do you validate these things? But I saw something the other day, and it was talking about how many people a year jump off of the Golden State Bridge and how many of them die doing so. Almost all of them die. Very few people survive jumping off the Golden State Bridge. And so there was talking about one person in particular who left a suicide note and basically said, I'm going to kill myself today by jumping off of the Golden State Bridge. But if one person will smile at me on my walk there, I won't do it. And they did it. Again, I don't know if that's true, but it's a story. I'm assuming that, they're telling the truth. But think about that. A person making up his mind that today's the day I'm going to kill myself. But all it's going to take is for one person to smile at me and I won't do it. I don't know how far he walked, but I've been to the Golden State Bridge. It's not in a neighborhood. You're walking a little ways to get onto that bridge. And so, that's the type of thing that we have to realize.
The type of world we live in right now.
Yeah, I mean, some people just need that that smile,
Yeah.
that something to that positive attitude, that positive energy, because we're bombarded constantly with all the negatives on social media, on the news, on this, all the people that nag us. Nobody ever nags us by telling us how great we are. It's always, nagging on all these little things, just picking at you, picking at you, picking at you. And like I said, you get to that point that you start to believe these things. And so I thought that it was interesting that when you really focus on just being a good person, you can make a difference. And that's kind of what that whole giving back
Giving
is.
back.
It's not just money. It's not just time. It's just be nice.
Keyshawn, what do you got going on, man, as it pertains? Do you have, you know, you got $1 million smile. You can stop someone. You can stop someone from jumping off a bridge. You know, but I'm curious because it's like I've learned so much about giving back,
Yeah.
being a part of Uncommon. You know, I had a chance to go to a corporate celebration that Mr. Dan Putnam right here was hosting, him and his family. And we were out in Mexico. And on the last day, maybe the second to last day, uh, there was about 100 folks. It was a VIP experience. Some top leaders from around the world flew in, and I watched Dan orchestrate this community giveaway. Where there was like book bags and pens and pencils and notebooks and even like shoes and T-shirts and back to school things, and went and gave away hundreds of these packages to the youth throughout Mexico. And I was just like, wow, what I mean? What a big vision, a big heart, to do that while we're out here celebrating. And then, there was some times that, we would get together and I'd watch, Dan and say, this is what we're going to do as an Uncommon movement. Whatever the bill is, we're going to match that with our tips.
Yeah.
I mean, so big visions, maybe a small big vision of empowering just that waitress or waiter to change their life for the day, put a smile on their face, and then you start thinking about. I know I don't want to steal Dan's thunder, but what is it, Dan? The one-on-one thing where it's like leave every person a better, and you leave every person better. He'll break
Yeah.
it down, but like if you go out of your way to bless every person, that's one thing, but then it also is a blessing for you. So I'm just asking you, Keyshawn, because you can give back by just your personality and character, but
Yeah.
then you can also have systems of giving back that maybe you have your team follow, exercises you do for the community, for the youth. What does it mean to you? What have you been doing? If you'd like to share as it
Sure.
pertains to giving back.
Immediately upon thinking about giving back, I always remember Andrew Carnegie. And I remember reading about his first letter to self. He said, in the first half of my life, I'm going to accumulate as much money as possible. And in the second half of my life, I'm going to give it all away. Right. And not only did he give back the physical monetary equivalent that he amassed, but he was the person that planted the seed for so many of us in the form of Napoleon's Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And we go around the community literally in Trinidad and Tobago, and we tell persons, listen, you look at persons who can help you multiply the amount of money in your hand, but are you aware that it has to start with the amount of information in your head? So literally, on a week-to-week basis, myself and the community, the Billionaire Club, we go around Trinidad and Tobago, and we are planning to go around the Caribbean world at large, by extending seeds of financial literacy, extending the concepts, extending the principle. And many persons come to our sessions and sometimes our weekly seminars, and they ask, what's the cost? The cost is your time. and we give freely because we have received that information freely. So for us, it's about a mission of empowerment. It's about, having that vision to extend as much as we would have accumulated from a knowledge standpoint, firstly, to as many persons as possible in the community. And we do this literally. I mean, our mantra is 5 and 6 nights a week. But yesterday in a session, we all looked around and realized we do this every single day.
I love it.
every single day. And this is Sunday to Sunday. I mean, before we came here, we had a couple of sessions. Well, and then, every afternoon we just pour. And the only reason the team knows that we're able to pour is because it goes right back to the one of the pillars that you spoke about, which is being able to expand your capacity, your financial literacy, and that's what personal growth and development is about, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. Day-to-day basis. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'll tell you, Dan, this has been a great conversation. You know, I got to tell you, Dan, when we started, Keyshawn said that, most of his life, his mom raised their entire family off of what would be equivalent to $100 US a week. Was it a
Yeah.
week, Keyshawn? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went so deep into his childhood, and that was just amazing. And what you shared about, the identity, situation, and what sparked your interest into, entrepreneurship and network marketing. It's just very transparent, very vulnerable. It's just been a real good journey, this conversation tonight. I've really it's really been exciting. Keyshawn, as we get ready to close out, I'm sure Daniel usually leaves us with a powerful word of the night, something to a real good nugget. But how about you? Anything you want to share with your team or people watching all over the world? This will be archived. People will be watching the episode to find out, what can I learn to become an uncommon man? What do you want to leave? What do you want to leave the people with?
I would say that you have to grow there to go there. And the reason you have to grow there to go there, because everything that you would like to achieve already exists. The money that you would like, it exists. The houses, the cars, everything that you want exists. But the reason you have to grow there to get there is because you need to extend your capacity. And trust when I say you have to have the capacity to hold before you try to hold. It's like, I remember having a conversation with you, sir, and, you were extending the science of wealth creation to me at that point in time. And you said to me, you say, listen, wealth is abundant. It's like the rainfall. But if you go to an abundant shower with a teaspoon, your capacity is only going to hold as much as you can. So the reason you have to grow to get there, or the reason you have to grow to go there, is because everything that you want out of life is already there, just waited. And it's waiting on you to grow your capacity to hold what life already has to offer. So grow there to go there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, listen, Dan, before you close us out with some nuggets of wisdom, guys, I just want you to know we're taking this movement very seriously.
Yeah.
We're talking to men from all over the world. Specifically, we want to inspire males from 16 and up to understand we got your back. And I want everyone to extend their hand and make an impact on another person's life. Share these episodes, man. If you're watching on YouTube, our channel, subscribe to the channel, be a part of this community, leave comments. We're going to continue every single Monday bringing you uncommon men. We're setting a precedent of excellence. And I got to tell you something else. If you're watching on our social media outlets, share the broadcast, like the broadcast, be a part of the community. Hey, man, one team, one dream. This is revolutionary. And it's really been exciting tonight. Mr. Putnam, how you feeling? What's on your mind as we get ready to close out?
You know what? I feel amazing. And I don't really think there's a whole lot to add. I loved what Keyshawn said. that everything we're after is already there.
Mm.
The money has already been printed. It's available. And for those of you that don't think it's available, to take a trip to, I don't care what country you live in, go to the nice neighborhoods, and you're going to see there's opportunity everywhere, every country, everything. And those that think that there isn't, that's really what the goal here is. We'll bring the opportunity to you. It's 2024. We have a worldwide, economy, and I mean, again, it's just it's great to be alive. It's great to have opportunity. It's great to experience the amazing things that we can experience in 2024. I'm so thankful for it, and I literally hate hearing the phrase "life sucks" and then you die.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, how many people think that. And my goal is to get it where people want to live to be unlimited. I don't ever want to die because it's so great helping so many people, doing so many things, seeing this amazing world, the amazing cultures, the amazing people that are all here on earth at this time. I love it, and I just want to get out there and help as many people as possible realize who they are and what they're capable of as a human being in 2024. So much opportunity available, so much opportunity present, things getting easier and easier and easier. The skill sets that it required 10 years ago compared to what's required now with AI and things like that, I'm seeing so many things just level the playing field and just basically say, hey, every single person can be successful. It takes a decision, it takes belief, and then it takes action.
Yeah.
Those are really the three things that have to be present. But I love what Keyshawn said. It's already there. Let's just go grab our share of it.
Let's get it. Hey, Keyshawn, do me a favor. Stay on for a moment as we close
Sure.
out. Okay.
No problem.
I want to thank you in front of the world for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and you're a big time inspiration, brother. Trust me on that.
Well,
And Dan, you too, man. Dan, you could say, hey, man, you got it tonight. But you came from the airport and and rushed to the office to jump on and support tonight's broadcast. And thank you so much, Dan, for your commitment to excellence. Yeah, this was episode 23, guys. We ain't playing around, okay? So to all my friends around the world, guys, if you're down with this uncommon movement, we salute you. We will be back next Monday with another great guest, and we ain't stopping. So everyone be blessed, all right? Good night.
yes, sir.